welcome back to my channel. This is That Girl Creates, and I am back for another installment of lessons I learned in my 20s. Since it is February and we are in the season of love with Valentine's Day coming up, so I just wanted to touch on the topic of love for this month. Whoo! Then versus now is nuts. Like, let me just tell you, picture it. DC, bars, clubs, hookah lounges, anywhere you can think of where you should not find a man was where I was. And it didn't end up good. None of it ended up turning out. Obviously, I had to move 3,000 miles away to find the love of my life. But let me just give you the top 5 lessons I learned about love in my 20s. Be who you are, be your authentic self, and if you don't know who that is yet, that's okay, because that's what life is about. Life is about that journey of remembering who you are. The right person will love you for exactly who you are, even though we're all works in progress. And I just heard a quote this morning that really struck a chord with me, and I wrote it down, so I'm gonna read it verbatim. You will never be the right one for the wrong person. Just in case y'all hear me in the back, I'm gonna say it again. You will never be the right one for the wrong person. It doesn't matter what you do. You can spend 4 hours in the morning trying to look like Rihanna. You can work out for 4 hours a day trying to look like Chloe Bailey. But if you're not the right person for that person you're trying to do it for, you're still not gonna be good enough. And you know what? That's okay, because there's someone out there to who they don't care. They don't care what you look like. Well, I'm not gonna say they don't care what you look like, but you won't have to have these unattainable societal goals. Like, if you don't want to get plastic surgery and you like your lips exactly the way that they are, someone else will love your lips exactly the way that they are. If you got a little fupa and you ain't never had no kids, I'm with you. I stand by you, and I'm working on it to eliminate that. But not for Keenan, for myself. Because guess what? Keenan has loved me at every size that he's seen me at, and I don't give him enough credit for that. So if you're watching this, thank you, boo. But he loves me for me, and I love him for him, despite our flaws, despite things that might irritate each other about the other person. He still loves me for me, and I love him for him, because I love his spirit. I know his spirit, and sometimes, you know, our egos get in the way of it, but at the root of it, I know his spirit, and I know his heart, and I know that he's a kind-hearted person. And those are the qualities that I look for now. In my early 20s, I was not looking for that. I was like, who is above 6 feet? Who got strong arms and strong backs? I don't know. Who has a nice car? Like, I dated someone with a Camaro. And where'd that lead me? Nowhere. Well, it did lead me to California to meet my eventual life partner. But, child, that Camaro went to someone else's house, not mine. So that's how that ended. But yeah, the right person will come along and respect you for you. Like, it wasn't our first FaceTime, but like very early on, I started wearing bonnets, because I'm like, look, I'm a black woman. I'm gonna have my bonnet on. If you just going, if we ain't set a date or a time to FaceTime and you just try to pop up on me, you might see a bonnet. And you know what? I ain't taking it off. I was 25 at that point, and I was so over guys. I was just like, let me be who I really am and see what happens, because up until that point I wasn't really my true self. Like, I dated someone that was into like heavy metal and stuff. Never, that stuff actually scares me. Like, when they be yelling hardcore stuff, I be like, no, just not of God. And so I dated someone like that, and you know, I tried to engage with it just because like we was together, but girl, you will never catch me listening to no heavy metal outside of that relationship. And just other little things where it's just like almost kind of like conforming, which I think in relationships, like, you do eventually have to compromise on some things, but you don't compromise on who you are at your core. And in previous relationships, I was kind of doing that, or like I was in situationships where I was getting a short end of the stick, and I didn't want that, but to be with them, so I just took it. And that was like when I had really low self-esteem and things like that. So it's a whole learning curve. But if I can give you a huge lesson, it's just to be yourself. And because as soon as I did that, literally ever since I met Keenan, we've been together. And it was just like instantly, it was almost scary, which brings me into my next point. Girl, recognize green flags versus red flags. Don't mess up your bag, okay? Your bag of love. Don't mess up your bag, because I had never been in a healthy relationship. I didn't know what that looked like. I only saw a few healthy relationships growing up. And so I didn't really have a layout of what a truly healthy relationship like up close looks like. And so some of the things like kind of scare me. And in my early 20s, I was a type where if you did one wrong thing, I'm cutting you off. And that was like for friends, that was for dudes, that was for anybody. Like I was cutting you off because I'm like, I don't have time. But if you're in like a committed relationship, you can't do that. Like, and that's a lesson that I had to learn, and it took me a while to learn. Like, you can't do that. You have to work through it. You have to communicate. You have to communicate. And yeah, it took me a while to learn that, like longer than I would like to admit. But it's very true. It's very important. Like, don't mess up your bag because you're insecure. You never seen a healthy relationship. Like, I, our goal together and separately is to break generational curses. We both had interesting ways of growing up, and we are going to break that cycle. So that means for me, I have to stand with my 10 toes and work stuff out and communicate. And that's when you recognize that they are worth sticking it out with. Everyone's not worth sticking it out with. And I realized I had to cut people loose. Like the old version of me had to cut people loose to get to this new version of me and my new life partner. I wrote this down and I'm gonna read it just because I want to say it exactly how I wrote it and how I was feeling. Trust red flags, but don't self-sabotage in a healthy situation trying to find something wrong. Because every relationship has challenges, so you have to know their spirit, which I was talking about earlier. And if you want me to make a video on like green flags and red flags in more detail, please let me know, because I have experience on both sides and I almost self-sabotaged my relationship numerous times, and I'm still unlearning things on how not to do that. So if you would like a follow-up video on green flags, red flags, please let me know in the comments, because this is something that I'm actually really passionate about. Like, just relationships. I'm so fascinated with relationships. I feel like if I wasn't a writer or creative, I definitely would have been a psychologist, because the human brain is just so interesting, and I'm gonna spend the rest of my life trying to explore it and figure out what's tea. So this next point is gonna be really short and sweet because I'm still trying to figure it out. But it is to be vulnerable and communicate. Like, I feel like that is kind of like one of my main stumbling blocks is communication, because I didn't grow up having to communicate. I was told like I'm the child and that basically I don't have a voice because I'm not paying bills and I'm not the parent. And it's no shade to my parents, but that's another generational curse that we both are breaking. Like, we're going to give our children autonomy, because there's a lot of experiences that happened to me because I didn't feel like I had autonomy over my body or my life. So things have happened, which I don't know. God used me as a vessel to share my testimony to help people get through, but at the same time, if my kids don't have to go through that, then they won't. And I would pray that they won't. Life is already hard enough. In my early 20s, like I said, I was cutting people off left and right. Like, if you made me upset once, maybe twice, if I really liked you, but I would cut you off with a quickness. Now that I'm in a long-term relationship, I can't do that. So I am progressing in that area. The Lord is still working on me in that area. And, you know, sometimes that includes tough conversations, and it is what it is. But I would say I'm way better at it now than I was in my early 20s. Like, I can't just immediately cut people off like that, even though sometimes I'm still have that petty spirit working in me and I be trying it, but ultimately you can't do that. Another important thing is to be friends. Be friends with your significant other, people you're trying to date. Just be friends, because when disagreements happens or even arguments, like, there's still that respect there to where things don't get out of hand. Me and Kenan were big on not calling each other out of our names. Cussing at each other, we don't do that. We don't even yell for the majority of it. We're trying to have a peaceful conversation. But I feel like just being friends and having that respect there, it just makes for a better relationship, better understanding, It's not just like we're here together because we want each other's bodies or we are expecting something from each other. Like, it's just genuine love, genuine friendship. I feel like that was something that I thought I had at one point, but now that I'm actually in it, that's a real thing. Like, I realized that nothing compared to what I have now. So I'm grateful for the lessons I learned because that is what got me here, but it was ghetto leading up to it. The last tip that I have is do not rush love. I'm gonna say it again. Do not rush love, because once it's here and it's real, it's not going anywhere. And so, like, and if you're in that like in between season, I feel like I read a book called like In the Meantime or In Between Time by Iyanla Van Zant. What is it called? In Between. In the Meantime. I don't know. I'm gonna find it though. I'm gonna find it because it was actually really, really good. I didn't really take it to heart when I read it, but I remember like some like key things. I'm just like, she was right. She was right. She knew what she was talking about. Love is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week commitment. So if you're in that meantime phase where you're not really dating seriously or whatever, use that time to focus on yourself, build yourself up, because no matter what happens, at the end of the day, you only have yourself. You came into this world by yourself. You're going to leave this world by yourself. Not to sound bleak or like you don't need to love anybody because you're going to leave by yourself, but also just acknowledge that. So it's like, build yourself up. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that's something that has been reoccurring to me like over the past couple of weeks. Like, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I keep telling myself that's kind of like a daily mantra at this point, because it's so true. Like, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you're not dating, take that time and get your rising routine together, get your evening routine together. And if people can fit into that, then they can. But once you have something set for yourself, it's going to be hard to want to break that. That'll kind of help you determine who's worth it and who's not. Because it's just like, if you have these red flags and you're just like, I don't think they're worth me breaking this routine up or this way of life up, then they're not worth it, and you can move on, and it's fine. Like, they'll find somebody else, and so will you. So yeah, find your rising routine, find your evening routine. Take a personal development class. There's a lot of free classes out there. YouTube University is one of my favorite universities. Start a side hustle, and I'm not for grind culture. I'm not at all. But if you have a passion, like, you can just start a cute little side hustle. You don't have to, you can put as little or as much time and hours, resources as you want. That's the beautiful thing about that, not even having to be like a huge source of income unless you want it to, unless you want to build it up to that. Find some hobbies, go hiking, like paint. Go back to what you like doing as a kid. Like, I loved crossword puzzles because I was a nerd, still am, proud nerd. I love reading. I read every day. I love music. I would say go to a concert, but whatever, we still in a panorama, so I wouldn't advise that. But have a little concert in your house. Just blast your album, sing your songs, clean, whatever, just dance, have a dance party, whatever you want to do. Get back to doing the things you love. And if you don't know what you love, figure it out. This is the time to figure it out, so you have something to bring to the table once you're in a relationship. I would say experience life on your own before you have children and get into relationships if you can. I was able to move across the country. Why? Because I didn't have anything tying me down. I didn't have any dependents. I wasn't in a relationship. So I could literally pack up my car and move across the country. And that's what I did. I had that luxury because I didn't have anyone depending on me, like a child, a partner, etc. So do what you love. If you love to travel, go take your trips, take your solo trips, live your life, because I'm sure it's going to be much harder once you start having kids, once you have to compare itineraries with someone else. Like Keenan, he doesn't swim. I love the water. Everywhere I want to go is near water. It's on the island. It's somewhere water related because I love the water. So, have your fun while schedules don't clash. And we are getting him into some lessons because I want to go parasailing. I want to go jet skiing again. You know what I'm saying? But live your life. That is all to say. Those were my top tips on how to navigate love in your 20s. And let me do a quick little recap. First thing is be your authentic self. Second thing is don't avoid red flags and know what green flags are. Other thing is communicate. and to be vulnerable. The other thing is to be friends, have that respect. And the last thing is to don't rush love. Oh, I remembered it. Go me. Thank you for watching. If there's any other tips that you have for someone that is maybe in their 20s now, or not even in their 20s yet, or just love lessons in general that you would want to share, please drop them below. And I think that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.